welcome to the BullCast podcast. I'm Katie Pickler, and with me today is Court Winsett.
Hello, Katie.
And Cameron Spann.
Hello.
Ooh, King's all back.
WIC and SNAP.
WIC and SNAP. Okay, Reese Witherspoon.
I mean, that's when I've read this title, I thought the bend and snap. Obviously, we're not talking about Legally Blonde. I do have this crocheted on a pillow in my office.
WIC and SNAP or Bend and Snap?
Bend and snap, not WIC and SNAP. Bend and snap.
For those that have never seen the film, can you explain the bend and snap motion?
You bend down and kind of like run your hand down your leg to your toes, and then real quickly you pop up, and it's almost like
You position your arms in such a way
Like
that
a T-Rex.
like a T-Rex. Yeah, it's like pop.
Is it to be like attractive? Is that kind of the...
It's to
Yeah,
accentuate
it's-
your chestal area.
Exactly. It's supposed to like pop it out. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you have that on a pillow, Katie.
it's because I like that movie. But okay. So we're talking about WIC and SNAP.
WIC and SNAP, totally different subject.
Totally
And,
different things.
A lot more sensitive issue that we're dealing with.
Yes.
An acronym heavy.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. And this is something that, if you may see a trend, the next several episodes, we're really going to dive into a lot of these acronyms that are just thrown around all the time.
And they're all over the news right now.
Yeah. And everyone
And-
expects you to know what it is.
As we will say all of the time, hopefully by the time this episode airs, maybe this will not be an issue anymore. Maybe the government will no longer be shut down. But as we are recording it, the government is still shut down. And WIC and SNAP are both very much in the news because they potentially could end, I think, this weekend if the government stays shut down and something isn't done to continue the programs. So we're going to talk about what exactly they are today. And
Two major programs that are addressing the issue of food insecurity. We're going to explore how they work, who they help, what this means for the country's overall well-being, how this is a big impact with the government being shut down right now. Before we get to the actual discussion about this these two very, very important programs, we are going to throw a little fun list. Again, not trying to make lighthearted of what's going on with, these programs, but this is a real cost of some famous meals from some various different TV shows or movies. As we were going through this list, there's definitely more that pop out at me, but I think that I was kind of, trying to strategize and figure out how much some of these things cost. Hannibal Lecter's meal isn't on here. Sorry, we're wrapping up October. I had to throw a little spooky one in there.
I've got a spooky one, too. We'll kind of follow the list and throw some fun ones in off our mind.
Definitely. Kevin McAllister's grocery trip in Home Alone. He actually goes to the grocery store and buys milk, bread, frozen mac and cheese, and laundry detergent.
The fact that he bought laundry detergent.
I mean, how responsible. What a responsible young
a
man.
good kid.
He bought some laundry detergent. But when he went to check out, it cost him $19.83.
Sheesh.
I went to the grocery store last night, and I guarantee you I could not buy all of those things for $19.83. I'm pretty sure the detergent alone would cost me $19.83.
And this says in today's world, the basket would cost around $43. I think that's low.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he did buy only one of each. That is important to point out. It's not like he bought multiple gallons.
I guess it wasn't a
milk
gallon of milk, like
Right.
a big thing of bread, big like Stouffer's frozen mac and cheese.
No, it was just enough to feed him, and he was a little kid. But still, that laundry detergent, man. What kid's going like, I need to wash some clothes? Anyway, $43 today.
Cool. I'm throwing a curveball in here, something not on the list, but from a movie I grew up on was Hook with Robin Williams. The Lost Boys meal where they had the food fight.
Yeah.
It was the most delicious looking smoked meats and pies with neon blue whipped cream. It is still vividly in my memory. So that is a famous meal for me.
Yeah.
And would it were that people that are on like Snap and WIC could actually imagine
Having
meals
that.
like that into existence? Because you remember at first, Robin Williams' character can't see the food.
It's like they're just going, they're imagining it, and nobody can. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know I've talked about it before on the episode, but my mom did the absolute coolest party for my brother because she recreated the Hook food scene. Told the parents, like, send your kids in like an old T-shirt or something, but we're going to have a food fight.
That is so cool. So $0.
Yeah.
Just your imagination.
$0.
I did not watch this show growing up.
I didn't
grew up
watch
on it.
I didn't watch it growing up, but I certainly watched it.
Well, then why don't you talk about it?
Well, okay, so everybody that has kids now or any time in the last like 15 to 20 years is familiar with SpongeBob SquarePants on Nickelodeon and the Krabby Patty. Back in Bikini Bottom, the famous Krabby Patty was said to cost $1.25. Factoring in modern food inflation, labor, and supply costs, it would need to be about $4.50 to turn a profit today. And I know I have gone on and on about inflation before, but my favorite point to make is that I could buy a double cheeseburger combo from Wendy's and Biggie size it when I was 17 or 18
Oh,
years
Biggie
old.
size. That dates you.
Yeah, $5.45 for that Murph.
Man.
I think it's like what for just one meal of a double cheeseburger
It's
combo
like
like that.
$15
Yeah,
per
it's
meal.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
it's crazy.
Crazy.
Okay, Miranda Priestley's Starbucks order, the Devil Wears Prada. She gets a daily venti latte. Might seem like pocket change until it starts adding up. It's around $6 a day, so roughly $1,800 a year. I have preached that before. Those your daily habits, whether it's a coffee, it's a nutritional tea, it's stopping at the gas station to get a Coke out of the fridge at the gas station. It adds up so quick, and that is one place to cut the budget.
Well, y'all remember the $5 footlong, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
So the $5 footlong,
And $5 hot and ready's.
Yeah, and then they had the catchy jingle to go with it. $5
foot long. Gimme, gimme, gimme.
So today that sandwich that cost you $5 for a foot long many years ago would now cost you between $9 and $11, depending on what where you live.
Do they still have the hot and ready's that are pretty cheap?
Little Caesars? Yeah, they do. As a matter of fact, I walked in the other night and heard a woman order one. I haven't ordered a hot and ready pretty much since we started using the app, because the app, they're not just listing their hot and readies.
No.
I remember when it went from $5 for a hot and ready to $6 if you got the hot and ready extra best cheeses or something like that. The extra most bestest cheese or whatever that pizza is called is now like $9 if you order one through the app, and they go up from there. Their pizzas are no longer $5, but they do still have the hot and ready. I don't know how much it costs. Anyway,
I cannot believe, back to Subway, I cannot believe Subway condemnation into believing that it was healthy food. We've talked about this before, but a foot-long loaf of bread full of meats and sauces. Is like,
Oh, yeah, that was the thing.
Jared,
You're going to eat at at Subway, and it is healthy.
11, 12 years ago, I was on a diet, and I can tell you that a 6-inch Subway chicken breast with just loaded with veggies and mustard only was not bad. Was not bad on the diet that I was on. I mean,
But when you go and add the mayo and the cheeses, and you get the rosemary whatever bread,
make it a foot long. Yeah, it adds up. All right, next on the list would be the Capitol banquets from the Hunger Games. For those that have not seen the films or read the books, the Capitol is where the bad people are. The rich people, they look kind of crazy, but they're the ones that watch these gladiator fights, basically, is what it comes down to. So these lavish feasts piled high with roasted meats, fruits, and desserts, while the districts starve below. It's a striking metaphor for wealth inequality, the gap between those who waste and those who worry where their next meal comes from. Would you say this is art imitating life?
Well, it's kind of the let them eat cake whole Marie Antoinette, which is quoted all the time, but so much of that is that she, court's going to look at me and probably, tell me incorrect.
I'm not like 100% up to speed on my Marie Antoinette historical data, so I don't know that I'll be able to correct you.
But the story that I know it is that she said, "Oh, we'll let them eat cake," and addressing the hunger in the nation, and that she was just that out of touch that it's like, well, we have all these cakes and cookies and things like that. Let's let them eat cake.
Yeah, I've heard variations of the story, and I don't know what is true and what is not, so I probably shouldn't comment at all. But I did hear one version of the story that was like basically they had a bunch of leftover cake that was going bad from a big party that the aristocrats had, and she said, "Yeah, let them have that. Let them eat the cake that's almost spoiled or whatever." So there are different elements
stories,
to the story that can make it worse or better, bad or less bad, depending on what version you believe.
And she lost her head at the end of it all.
Yes,
she
exactly.
did. Indeed, she did.
Okay, the last one on this is Jean Valjean, loaf of bread, Les Miserables. He went to prison for stealing a loaf of bread to feed his sister's hungry children. And so in modern terms, that same loaf of bread would cost about $4.25. The story resonates of hunger drives desperation.
Yeah. I went through the grocery store last night, and I bought very, very little that is actually good for you. But I also didn't buy that much at all. I mean, like, I didn't fill my shopping cart. I was able to go through the self-checkout line, which to me, there's a demarcation in the amount of food that I have in my basket, whether I can do self-checkout or I want somebody else helping me bag, because I always feel pressure to get through the self-checkout line quickly.
Oh, it's quick, yeah.
Plus, they only have, I'm sorry, okay, I'm going off on a little bit of a side note here, but they only have spots for 5 bags on that little turntable where you bag your stuff. And so if you fill it up and try and take a bag out and put it in your cart, they're like, no, put that back.
At you.
That's annoying. Anyway.
And speaking of that, Abby, we probably all have these conversations. Abby and I always talk about, like, we want to eat healthier, but the healthier snacks and food, easy grab stuff is so expensive.
Yeah. That's any
cheap stuff that is bad for you, but people are driven to desperation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so you look at any fast food place, the chicken item is always more expensive.
Yeah.
And so you've got that notorious, but okay.
Which is funny. Did you know that the reason that there are stereotypes that some historically poorer classes prefer chicken comes from the fact that they ate a lot of chicken because it was cheaper?
Yeah.
Because chickens were readily available and they could grab one and out of the street and cook it and eat it, and so that's where that stereotype came from. But chicken is not cheaper anymore.
No, my mom talks about it all the time because she grew up and she's got 3 other siblings, and a lot of her meals that she learned from her mom were a lot of red meat meals. Mm-hmm. And my sister-in-law one day said something to her and was like, you don't cook a lot of chicken things. And she goes, what I grew up on, like, chicken was a special thing. That's, we had an opportunity and we got some chickens and were able to have some fried chicken or have like a chicken dish or something like that. But that was rare because it was more expensive. It was harder to get a hold of.
But on the other side of that, it is strange. If you go to a high-end restaurant, they usually, the high-end restaurants kind of look down their nose at chicken.
They do.
They don't want to serve you chicken at a high-end restaurant.
Yeah.
It's all about beef and
pork,
fish.
Lamb.
Yeah.
Did you know that lobster, which is very expensive and fancy, that was once food for inmates? It was frowned upon. It was viewed as the cockroach of the ocean. It's like gross, but over a couple centuries, it became this sought-after item. Isn't that funny?
Well, now that we're going down this, you think about your cheap meals, and for a lot of people who they had that when they were in college. That may have been their cheap meals they've got. What can they really stretch? But then for a lot of America, people have to come up with what are those cheaper meals or what are those things you can get that will stretch and be multiple meals. But one of them is, the instant cup of noodles or the ramen noodles. And that's always kind of the joke of college. Like, you always had the big packs of ramen noodles, which were very interesting. But then I never was big on ramen. My brother was very big on ramen.
I ate some ramen.
But now, ramen is a big deal, trendy. But now this is not the same ramen that was in a little packet.
Yeah, no. There are ramen restaurants where they have all they serve is multiple varieties of ramen and stuff like that, and it's a pretty big thing. But those ramen noodles that they're serving are nothing like the ones that came out of the little packet that you had to break apart into a cup.
Right. Well, then do you remember the instant cup of noodles, the styrofoam little that logo that probably has gone down in history for you? You from the logo aspect have got to remember that.
I'm trying to think styrofoam logo.
It's white. It's a white cup that has I think brown and yellow to it.
Yeah.
It looks like an old cup of coffee, but it's instant cup of noodles, and that's you just did it all in that.
Well, when Robin and I were in college, one time very very early on in our college careers, we cooked hamburger helper cheeseburger macaroni.
Okay.
And so it's basically after it took me like half an hour to cook it all up, to cook the meat and to actually mix in the hamburger helper and stuff. And as we were eating it, I was like, this is good. We love it. It's but it's just Kraft mac and cheese mixed with hamburger meat. Why don't we just cook some hamburger meat and make some Kraft mac and cheese and mix it together? Why do we need to use the hamburger helper? And so ever since then, since we were in college, that was a go-to meal for us until I became allergic to hamburger.
And couldn't do it.
And couldn't use it anymore. But that was always a go-to meal for us. But it's funny when you think about it. sort of steering back toward the meals that you can afford. That is a relatively cheap meal. Hamburger meat, Kraft mac and cheese, right? It doesn't sound like that would be that tough to cook. So you take some if you're thinking about taking food to the food bank or something like that to help people that are not that can't afford to buy themselves meals right now. And you're like, well, it's boxed Kraft mac and cheese. It's in a box. It's easy to deliver that, and it'll keep forever. It'll store, and that's the kind of stuff you're encouraged to take to the food bank. So you take that to the food bank, and a person gets it, and they go, well, this is great. I would love some Kraft mac and cheese. Can I have some milk, please? Can I have some butter, please? You forget about the steps that go into the preparation of the mac and cheese. We always have milk in our fridge. Yeah. We always have butter.
But that's those are a luxury. It's, there's something circulating through social media right now about what to donate. And you're forgetting about like oil, butter, eggs, milk, things like the hamburger meat itself. And of course, I'm going in my head, well, I don't think food banks want you to donate like fresh meat and things. No. Like they always say, dried goods, things like that, cans. But even on here, it's like, do they have a can opener?
Yeah.
So things that you may not think about is a big part of it. Of course, wasn't there an episode eons ago where we talked about the condiments that stay in your fridge? And if you got separated, then like how do you divide out the condiments in your fridge?
So think about this for a second. Why is it that we're talking about food banks and food stuff? What this episode is about is it's about WIC and SNAP. These are two government programs for food needy people, people who need assistance with food, with supplemental or with just their meals entirely. And those programs are both in the news right now because they're threatened by the fact that the government has shut down. So why don't we talk a little bit about what they are, what WIC is, and what SNAP is? And
yes, I mean, as you said, it's rising food cost is obviously becoming a huge issue. Grocery prices have risen 25% since 2020. Lower income families' food prices are outsized. You've got these budgets, and your budgets are increasing. The income is not increasing. So why were these programs established? Let's start with WIC. That's the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children.
Hence WIC. Women, Infants, and Children is there.
So who does it help? Women, infants, and children.
Pregnant women, new mothers, infants, children up to age 5.
Yes, this is really helping that specific group. It began in 1974 and now serves about half of all infants born in the U.S. Half?
Half of all infants born in the U.S. So not just half of the U.S. population.
Yeah, but half of the infants born. So as of 2024, 6.3 million Americans participate in WIC each month. To be eligible, women must both meet the income and the nutritional risk criteria. And so with this, it's providing vouchers for specific foods like milk, eggs, cereal, baby formula, produce, nutritional counseling, and breastfeeding support. And now this is definitely something that, I just had my babies back in April. I saw a lot of this information about that because it's whether you're breastfeeding or your formula, it's expensive. So if you're trying to, as a new mother, you've got to make sure you're taking care of your health needs as well to then take care of the infant. So that makes sense that there's so many infants that are getting this assistance because mom may be able to afford her nutrition, but adding in the new baby.
Yeah.
So you've probably seen WIC labels at the grocery store.
I'm not sure that I have.
I don't know
I'm Googling it. I'm looking.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess it means that food is eligible.
Eligible.
So
for WIC,
Cam's got it pulled up on our screen, and it's just, kind of built into the label itself. And it's just got either a little circled red emblem that says WIC or there's blue, but it's just WIC, WIC approved item. I'm going to really have to pay attention next time I go to the grocery store and kind of see what's part of that.
Now, it's probably been at least a decade ago, maybe more than a decade ago, that the term SNAP became prevalent. Prior to SNAP being the prevalent term, and SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, people mostly knew of this program as food stamps. That was the colloquial that we all used to refer to it. And who it helps is low-income individuals and families, it's not limited to just mothers and children. The modern program began in 1964. It was signed into law by Lyndon B. Johnson as part of his War on Poverty.
So WIC was 10 years after that.
So originally, as I already said, it was called the Food Stamp Program. So it was renamed SNAP in 2008. So I wasn't that far off. It was, I said 10, 15 years ago, and it was about.
So it'll probably, let's see, 08, it changed to SNAP. So we'll probably have another 25, 30 years of people still calling it food stamps before it really cycles and SNAP is what's mostly accepted.
Yeah, I mean, because like people like you were 20 when it changed from food stamps to SNAP. And I know that I didn't realize that they had changed the name until closer to around 2012 or 2013. I was working with a lot of people who were on food stamps, as I called them at the time, and somebody told me, they call it SNAP now. And the reason they changed the name was to emphasize that it's a nutrition thing, and they wanted to try and sort of rebrand it as
food stamps has a very negative connotation to it.
And they didn't want it to sound like it was a handout or something like that. So as of
course, in this day and age, people may not know what stamps are anymore.
Well, I mean, I guess,
they
there's hardly know what mail is sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah. As of mid-2024, there were about 41 million Americans receiving SNAP benefits. So part of it is now they don't actually receive stamps anymore. They don't receive coupons or stamps or anything like that. It's all distributed to them on a card. Okay. And so you might walk up to a convenience store or a grocery store and see on the door of the store, we take EBT. That's the same thing. It's the EBT is the electronic benefits transfer card. Yeah, and that's what you use to pay for your SNAP food is that EBT card.
So it comes out to about 12% of Americans are on the SNAP program.
Yeah. Wow. Now, you can't use it to buy alcohol or tobacco or firearms. I'm sorry, it's just ATF. You can't use it to buy alcohol or tobacco, and you can't use it to buy pre-prepared foods, hot foods, or non-food items. So if you went into a grocery store and tried to use your SNAP to buy a toothbrush, I guess you couldn't use it.
Or that rotisserie chicken.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So eligibility for SNAP. Eligibility would be similar to WIC, except you, again, don't have to be a mother or a child. And the income level is lower to receive SNAP. To be eligible for SNAP, your gross income has to be less than 130% of the federal poverty line. And less than 130% of the federal poverty line may sound like a pretty high bar to get under, but if that makes sense, like it's not actually. The federal poverty line is pretty darn low. So even to be under 130% of the federal poverty line is pretty darn low. But if you are below that line, you can receive SNAP benefits. Nearly 2/3 of SNAP participants are children, seniors, or people with disabilities. So, this is a program that's important to, well, as I said, back in 24, it was important to at least 41 million Americans. It's important to a lot of Americans, but a lot of those Americans that rely on it are children.
So just for reference, the FPL, the Federal Poverty Line, because there we go, acronyms again. It's a guideline for the income threshold. So in 2024, the FPL for a single person is $15,060. And it increases with family size. So 2 people would be $20,440, 3, $25,820.
So the federal poverty line for 2 people is what did you say?
$20,440.
$20,440. 2 people to make $20,440 would each need to work 20 hours a week at about $10 an hour. And if 2 people were both working about 20 hours a week each at $10 an hour, they would earn right around $20,200, I think. And so, that's a part-time job making $10 an hour or less by 2 people.
Yeah. Some rough math here is a household of 1 to be eligible, you make around $1,600 per month. Household of 2, $2,200 per month. Household of 3, $2,700 per month. And then a household of 4, around $3,300 per month.
Lately, I've been saying like, well, shoot, you can go to Target and get $15 an hour, and that's $30,000 a year if you work full time.
Right.
$15 an hour would get you $30,000 a year. But if you're an individual and you are working full time at, say, a Target or any place like that, then you could potentially be above that line if you're an individual trying to get the SNAP program.
Well, and if you live in Alaska or Hawaii, it's a little bit different as well.
Okay.
They separate out a little bit different from
Tell us about it.
Everybody else. Yeah, the 48 states plus DC has one rate, and then Alaska is the highest, and Hawaii is in between the 48 states and Alaska. So, like, for example, for a household of 1, $15,650 is the 2025. Alaska is $19,550. Hawaii is $17,990.
They have a lot of food dependency over there, or food scarcity over there. They have a lot of people who struggle with being able to feed themselves. So,
well, and it's with things like Hawaii and I know the Virgin Islands things, because I have some friends over there, the issue of getting the food over there. And so if you have the hurricanes, you have natural disasters, you have pandemics, then that impacts it as well and causes things to go higher and higher. So common misconceptions. Myth, most recipients don't work. What's the fact?
Well, according to this, nearly 60% of non-disabled adults on SNAP are employed.
They're trying to work. They're trying to get an income.
Well, like I said, it doesn't take much income to disqualify you from it. But yeah, they're out there earning something.
Another myth, people misuse benefits. That's something you see all the time of somebody ranting, oh, people are eating better on food stamps than I ever did. I'm working hard. It's what people are constantly complaining about. SNAP fraud is extremely low. About 1% of benefits are misused or trafficked per USDA audits. Now, obviously, it is the discretion of those who qualify what they choose to purchase and how far they have this stretch. And so that's where, kind of going back to a loaf of white bread, depending on what things you get with it. If you get a pack of bologna, you get, hot dog, peanut butter, whatever it is, then that's going to stretch to be a couple of different meals versus if you just buy one really expensive thing that's only going to last for one meal.
We didn't even touch on the fact that generally, or I don't know if we did. I don't think we did. Generally, the food that to make a budget like a SNAP budget last, you try and spend as little as possible on food.
Yeah.
And the food that is the healthiest for you tends to be the most expensive as well. So it's hard to be
fresh
on SNAP
produce,
and eat healthy.
Yeah, fresh produce is going to be very expensive. So you're going to have to buy and that's another thing. My mom grew up in Marvell, Arkansas, a little bitty town, and they, even though there was farmers all around them, they didn't have access to, a lot of the fresh produce. That was a luxury. Oh, we got fresh tomatoes in, but it was a lot of cans. And so that's where it's, people are given this. Budgeting is a huge part of people who are a part of this WIC and SNAP program, is how to stretch the dollars.
So let's say hypothetically, and again, by the time that you're listening to this, maybe the government has reopened and this is not an issue. But if SNAP and WIC go away, what can people do to help? The most obvious first thing you can do is donate food to the food banks.
Yep.
Whatever local food pantry. Those usually are not necessarily government related places. A lot of food banks are run by churches or by religious groups, but find your local food bank. And like, for instance, here in Shelby County, the biggest one is MIFA. Actually, it's not MIFA anymore. The Memphis Interfaith Association, MIFA, started the food bank, but food bank spun off and became its own entity. But it's still the Memphis Food Bank. But there are organizations like MIFA all over the country that have started food banks, that have started food pantries, and they're all worth donating to if you can. take into consideration when you're donating how easy it's going to be for a person to prepare it with limited resources.
Yeah. The other thing is, help debunk some of these myths, share factual information, help reduce the stigma around receiving assistance. And that's the biggest thing across the board is, look, we're all human. Treat other humans like humans. Mm-hmm. And you never know when you're in this situation. And that's so much of life. You never know. We're all, one separation away from cancer impacting us, or a disorder, or a disability, or poverty. And so treat everybody with respect and try and help out when you can. Now, obviously, do not put yourself in a terrible situation trying to help anybody and everybody. But we are starting to roll into the holiday seasons. This is when a lot of times there's people who are donating turkeys, they're opening up their homes, things like that. So this is really striving into the giving season and how you can help out. You've got all these different places. I will just put a little pin in this for right now, because we'll probably revisit this in another episode, because it's always good every giving season to do this. Take a half a second to make sure who you're giving to is legit, is actually going to make a difference. If you want it to stay local, it's going to stay local, things like that. And so take a half a second to make sure your cash donation, food donation, whatever it may be, time donation is where you want it to be. And it's not just going to a big, conglomeration and getting taken somewhere else. WIC, pregnant women, mothers, infants, kids up to 5. Mm-hmm. SNAP is larger grouping, really dives into the income levels, the poverty level with that, who can get those, formerly known as food stamps. They're both cornerstones of America's fighting against hunger. That is something we do want to make sure everyone has a hot meal. Like, the schools over the years, we've seen that of providing breakfast for those that may not have meals at home, and they are at least going to get, 2 solid meals. They'll get breakfast and they'll get lunch. And I think some of them even offer like afternoon snacks. Understanding these programs that help us appreciate the systems that ensure every person has access to basic nutrition.
Yep.
Because that is a huge part of it. What you put in your body makes a difference on your brain, makes a difference on how you live and your overall health. And so there still is a huge discrepancy between all the really good foods, the good nutritional foods that you should be eating. Like, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, apples are expensive. Mm-hmm. And so that is always going to be an issue. Now, obviously, with tariffs, with farmers, with all of this stuff, there's so much we can go into that. But this is just about these 2 programs that you're seeing in the news right now. Food is more than fuel. It's a foundation of opportunity. When families are nourished, communities are stronger together. So really just let's wrap our heads around this, and you'll have a little bit more understanding when you see WIC and SNAP in the media.
That's true. Communities are stronger when families are nourished, because if the more starvation you have, the more potential unrest and violence you're going to have. Yeah. That's human nature. You are fighting to survive, and so you're going to have robbery, crimes. That's just a natural progression. So people need to be fed. They need to be nourished.
Mm. Yeah.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, you've made it to the end of yet another episode of the BullCast podcast. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to hear more, please feel free to go to your favorite subscription service and sign up to have our podcast delivered directly to your device every single Thursday at noon. If you would like to find out more about Cortland, Katie, Cameron, or Nicole, please feel free to go to our website. That website is bullcastpodcast.com. We've got pictures up there, we've got bios, and we've got a place where you can drop a comment or suggest a topic you'd like to hear us talk more about. But hey, I mentioned pictures. We do have an Instagram handle, and there are pictures at our Instagram handle. So if you'd like to see those, go to the Instagram and check us out at BullCast Podcast. We also have an X handle, which is also at BullCast Podcast. And rounding out the social media, we have a Facebook page, which is BullCast the Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, as I like to do every single episode, please let me remind you that Katie, Cameron, Nicole, and I all work at a place called Pickler Wealth Advisors. And if you'd like to find out more about us, find out more about what we do, find out about what we can do for you, or find out about our amazing team and our boss, David Pickler, please feel free to go to that website. That website is picklerwealthadvisors.com.
That's advisors with an O.
Not an E.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've given you everything you need to go forth and be kind to everyone because a lot of people out there are hungry. So for now, I'm Court.
I'm Katie.
I'm Cam.
And we're done.